Hey travelers, Mag here, coming at you from Nagasaki, our second prefecture we're going to be taking on here in Kyushu. This morning, it's raining out. You know what that means, right? Absolutely nothing. The geocaching continues, rain or shine. Fortunately, I've got a dry spot now. Hopefully that'll continue. The sky says otherwise. Either way, this morning I've got about 5 hours in the city. From here in the city center, I'm gonna walk out for a little over a mile, find my way through some shrines, get up to the virtual target that's got the great city view, and then work my way back again. I'm gonna finish up my time here in Nagasaki at the Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum. That's where we're gonna wrap this thing up and then head on to our next prefecture. I'm excited for the chance to be able to get to see this city, and I'm excited for the chance to show you. Come on, let's get out there.
Thank you for joining me here today in the city of Nagasaki on the northwest coast of the island of Kyushu. This is both the capital city for and the largest city in Nagasaki Prefecture, boasting a population of around 400,000 people. The origins of this city are actually quite different from so many of the others we've already seen across this country, as it was founded by the Portuguese. Beginning in the 16th century and stretching well on into the 19th century, this was the sole port used for trade between the Portuguese and the Dutch with Japan.
The way I've chosen to approach these geocaches this morning keeps bringing me on a zigzag across this river. But that's awesome, because as you can see down the line, there's a ton of bridges, and so I'm fine with just crossing back and forth and enjoying the unique offerings each one of these has for me.
The first Portuguese made landfall in Japan in Tanegashima in 1543. The groundwork for Nagasaki, however, would not be laid until 1549 with a visit from St. Francis Xavier. His sway helped to convert a number of daimyos to Christianity. Most notable of these converts was Omura Sumitada, who in 1569 granted a permit for the establishment of the port in Nagasaki. It was set up in a mere 2 years' time.
First find of the day, and the first find for Nagasaki Prefecture. I'm gonna be honest, this took me a lot longer than it should, but that kind of happens a lot in the early mornings. I go to look for the geocache, it's probably right where I think it is, and I still take forever. That's that brain trying to wake up. But I've got an easy mile plus to go ahead and wake up the rest of the way and find some more caches. Hopefully the next one won't take me half a lifetime, right?
Working closely with Jesuit missionary Gaspar Vilela and Portuguese Captain Major Tristão Vaz de Vega, Omura streamlined the process to get Nagasaki up and running. In practically no time at all, the small harbor expanded into a booming port city. Through the port of Nagasaki, many of the products and customs of the Portuguese were imported into Japan and assimilated into the culture.
Well, yes, I do realize that there's two bridges right over there, but come on. They're practically begging me to do it. I've got to go down there and cross. Wouldn't you?
Before heading down to cross these stones, I checked and double-checked to be sure there wasn't a sign saying I couldn't. As far as I can tell though, with a stairway down on each side, they fully intend for people to take this path, so that's exactly what I did.
They set this up for people just like me, I assure you.
The history of the origins of this city are truly an interesting thing to dig into. Due to instability throughout the region during the Sengoku period, Sumitada was concerned that upon his passing, a non-Catholic daimyo would take control of Nagasaki. In an effort to prevent this, he worked with Jesuit leader Alexandro Valigano to pass administrative control of the city over to the Society of Jesus. Thus, for a short time, this city was a true Jesuit colony, under full control of the Portuguese.
Thank goodness, I think I am actually warmed up now. That first find took me way longer than it should have, but this second one was basically calling out to me when I walked up saying, "Meg, come find me, and you know, the geocache is talking to me. I've got to listen to what it's got to say.
Allowing the geocaches to guide my path, I head toward Kazagashira Park, past the temple Kotaiji. Interestingly, this temple was established in direct opposition to the Christian roots taking hold of the city of Nagasaki. As the turning of the 16th century approached, it was becoming increasingly difficult for any other religion to gain a footing in this region. Kyo-ryokaku, wanting to give Buddhism the opportunity to thrive, established this temple in 1608. His efforts were not wasted, eventually bearing fruit and allowing the two religions to thrive in coexistence together. In recognition of his efforts, the Temple of the Founders Hall now houses a lifelike statue of Kyo-ryokaku. And on September 9th of each year, a memorial service is held at the temple in his honor.
When we're thinking of building materials, we always think of stone. It's stronger than wood, which is a building material it is. But stone versus a living tree, the tree is always going to win. Look at the way This tree has just completely consumed its way over the top of the rocks here. And look at the way that Mag is going to completely consume another logbook.
The pathway between Kotaiji Temple and Kazagashira is a winding pathway through a beautiful cemetery. The stone staircase ascends all the way to the top, one step at a time.
Man, there isn't even a castle waiting for me at the top of all these stairs. I just saw them leading up and up and up some more, and I figured if I get to the top, it'll make for a pretty amazing view. And that part at least, that's clearly proving true. And there's still a ton of stairs in front of me. So I imagine by the time I get to the top of all those, it's gonna be that much better.
I trudge up the never-ending stairs, wondering if I'll ever get to the top, and then I see quite an interesting sight. Maybe this is a sign that it's time to grab a bite to eat for breakfast.
When I see wild mushrooms growing, my time with that Truax Outdoors always makes me wonder, is that kind of edible? But that's more so when we're on the trails away from people. This being along a main pathway and growing to this size, yeah, that's not gonna go well. I'm sure of it.
Although I chose to stick to the main pathway in an attempt to reach the top as quickly as possible, this cemetery I find myself in stretches on for well over a mile across the mountainside. This is the kind of place where it'd be easy to lose several hours, with secrets hiding behind every turn.
It's a long climb, but getting that view out below me, it doesn't even matter if I find the next geocache up the line. That's the real prize right there.
Despite my misgivings, I do eventually make it to the top of Mount Kazuto at an elevation of about 151 meters. The ancient stone pathway gives way to a more modern staircase, and then, all at once, I find my way into Kazagashira Park. This hilltop park, offering one of the best views of the city, is also a well-known spot to come fly kites. While there wasn't any of that happening on this rainy school day, I was still happy to see the view waiting for me.
Man, after that first geocache, I'm on fire this morning. This one has a DNF history going back the last 5 logs, but I used my senses more than coordinates, went about 4 meters off, and was immediately able to put Smiley on the map. Yes, this feels good.
Ascending to the viewing area of the park, you will find a small plaza bearing a statue of Sakamoto Ryoma. He stands proudly with his arms crossed, looking out over Nagasaki Bay. Created in 1989 by sculptor Kazukuna Yamazaki, this statue is a tribute to his short but influential life. Sakamoto was a low-ranking samurai who rose in prominence due to his active opposition of the Tokugawa shogunate. He worked against their government, advocating for democracy and the modernization of Japan. He was assassinated at the age of 31, shortly before the beginning of the Meiji Restoration.
Throughout the climb to get up here, my view has continued to get better, but I've got to tell you, I don't think it's going to get much better than where I'm standing right now. Now this virtual is supposed to have the 8 views of Nagasaki, and I'm kind of looking forward to what it has in store, but I'm not getting my hopes up that it's going to beat this by a long shot. Isn't that something?
I enjoy the astounding view of Nagasaki one last time from Kazagashira Park before beginning my descent eastward toward Irabayashi. Almost immediately, I begin to see small signs pointing me toward Kazen no Daiichi, an art museum. Even with it still being relatively early in the morning, I can't resist the potential opportunity, so I follow the direction indicated with the hopes to sneak in a tour.
So close, and yet so far away. The trails coming down off the mountainside were leading me here saying Free Museum of Art. But it doesn't open until 10, and it's still before 9 right now. I won't be hanging out at the doorstep for an hour. But looks like a cool spot to come check out for free.
I have a little laugh to myself when I reach the bottom of the staircase and see this brightly painted sign.
I came down those stairs, so it wasn't nearly so bad. But the art museum may be free, but it's not free to get there. You're gonna work every step of the way to get up to that front door.
The next listing leads me to a statue of a giant pair of Ryoma Sakamoto's boots, but I could have sworn I saw him wearing these things when he was standing at the top of the mountain looking down on the city.
You can never really be sure where the journey is going to take you. This geocache has led to this small little museum, which is about an Edo period samurai, where they have original scrolls preserved and a lot of other neat things. So we're going to go ahead inside and take a look.
This is the perfect place for Sakamoto Ryoma to have parked his boots, as the Kamiyama Shachu is a holdover of his trading company established with the aid of the Satsuma clan. The museum has been maintained and exhibited by the city of Nagasaki since 2009, restored to the period of the days of the shogunate. His trading company both moved goods and acted as intermediaries during trades. The Kamiyama Shachu also played a pivotal role in mediating the sales of weapons and warships to the Choshu clan and the creation of the Shacho Alliance.
The mezzanine is a hidden little space with a trapdoor that comes here off the wooden ladder, and as you can see, you're not even going to stand up here. It's definitely the spot to come get away, relax, meditate, and think about the days ahead.
And while I certainly have plenty to think about in the days ahead of me traversing Kyushu, I need to keep my mind on the here and now, exploring the city of Nagasaki and finding the geocaches that I've targeted for the day.
I always love finding a place where the average hider is going to hide a micro, and instead, they go ahead and hide themselves a smaller or regular. Very good.
Out through the gate of Kotaiji Temple I go, back into the busy downtown area of Nagasaki, where I immediately happen across a monument dedicated to Ueno Hikoma. Celebrated as a pioneer of Japanese photography in the late 19th century, he was well known for his excellent portraits of important figures.
I feel like I've been going up and downstairs all morning long. A lot more up than down. And usually the stairs are part of the journey, but occasionally they're also the destination. This one could have been a tough one, and most certainly is if you're not looking at the cache page, because the background of it has a perfect picture of these rocks right here. And if you zero in on that background image, you're gonna come up with the geocache in hand.
On approach to the virtual I've been targeting, I get a little bit of a history lesson as I read through the page. During the 18th century, the only way into Nagasaki by land was crossing the steep Himi Pass. On this side of the pass was the Hotaru Jaya Gateway, which was the departure point for those saying goodbye and the meeting point after a long separation.
And here we are at the virtual that I was targeting, which brought me a little more than a mile out in the rain this morning. The Great 8 Views of Nagasaki. Now, it's actually a bit more of a history lesson than it was a view. So there was a painting called the Ichino Seiron, and it's one of the ancient paintings of Nagasaki. In it, there are 8 objects featured, and 3 of those objects are located right here. The Ichino's Bridge, as well as the 2 mountains you see behind me. So, we got ourselves a little bit of a history lesson while taking a picture at this virtual, and the real view, of course, was climbing up that mountain this morning. I would be turning around from here, but there is a pagoda about 1,000 feet that way that I can't resist going to check out before I actually start to head back.
So over the Ichino's Bridge I go in pursuit of just one last find for this expedition.
I could go up and over, but the tunnel going right underneath, that sounds way more interesting to me. So that's what we're gonna do here. Oh man, listen to that echo. Echo. Guess there's nothing to say. This is cool. Wonder what's on the other side of this thing.
Just on the other side of this tunnel lies the Hokyoin Pagoda, marked by a geocache hidden in 2008. These types of pagoda, normally made from stone, began to appear in their current form across Japan near the end of the 12th century during the Kamakura period. But even prior to the Chinese influence that has helped to shape its current design, the tradition of the Hokyointo can be traced all the way back to the 6th century during the Asuka period. At that time, they were made from wood instead of stone.
Not the pagoda I was expecting, but the pagoda we're gonna get. The Hokyoin Pagoda marks our furthest out point for the walk through Nagasaki this morning. Now it's time to return to start and move over to the Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum, where we're gonna wrap this thing up.
A couple miles down the road from where our morning began, we stop in to see the Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum and the Nagasaki National Peace Memorial Hall for the atomic bomb victims. While these do appear as 2 separate buildings, they are linked on the inside, and a walk through one will lead you directly into the other. Together, they ensure that we will never forget the horrors inflicted on the Japanese people by the dropping of the atomic bomb on the city of Nagasaki on the morning of 9 August at 11:02 a.m. First entering the atomic Atomic Bomb Museum, which was established in April of 1996, you spiral down a walkway that begins in the present and descends into the past. A string of 1,000 cranes completes the journey into the heart of the city of Nagasaki, mere days before the bombing occurred. With the city of Hiroshima laid to waste just 3 days before, anybody thought they could be next. But nobody could prepare themselves for the destruction that would follow with the dropping of the Fat Man. An implosion-type nuclear bomb with a solid plutonium core and a blast yield of 21 kilotons. Just like with the city of Hiroshima, the havoc wreaked in an instant was unescapable. As many as 40,000 people were killed within seconds of the bomb exploding. But still, the bomb would go on to take as many as 40,000 more lives in the long term. As with the survivors from the bombing of Hiroshima, many would die within days, suffering from severe burns and radiation poisoning. Those who managed to pull through would suffer from long-term health effects, like leukemia. Throughout the museum, on display are many artifacts recovered from the city in the wake of the bombing. Normal, everyday objects, charred, burnt, twisted, and reformed by the blast. A collection of glass bottles fused together into one. A broken bottle, still bearing the bones of the human who had been holding it. Every item on display in the museum hints at a life destroyed, a story abruptly ended. The survivors of the bombing, those willing to speak about the events of that day, help us to understand the horrors inflicted. Sumitaro Taniguchi was a postal worker at 16 years old, delivering mail only 2 miles away from the ground zero. The heat from the explosion launched him from his bike, and when he was able to regain his feet, he knew he was hurt. Badly hurt. He described during the interview how the skin from his shoulder to the fingertips of his left arm had peeled away and was hanging like a tattered old rag. He reached his hand around to his back to discover that he was wearing no clothing. He brought the hand back around to look at it, discovering something like black grease across its surface, terrible burns up and down his arm. He would be hospitalized in excruciating pain, receiving treatment for years to come, and not regaining his feet again for another 2 years. Within the adjacent Remembrance Hall, visitors silently mourn for the victims and make prayers for peace. The 12 glass pillars symbolize calls for peace going out to the skies of the world, and are positioned so they form a line pointing toward the place where the bomb exploded. Just beyond is the registry shelf, containing the names of nearly 200,000 victims spread across more than 200 volumes. Outside of the museum, our journey of remembrance continues as we make our way through Nagasaki Hypocenter Park toward Peace Park. Hypocenter Park marks the location where the atomic bomb exploded 500 meters above Matsuyama in Nagasaki City. There are a number of memorials spread throughout the park, each telling a small piece of this tragic story. In the explosion, all plant life in the area was utterly annihilated. At first, it was thought that it would take the better part of a century before plant life was able to thrive in the area again. But within just a month's time, more than 30 species of plants had started to take root again. Now the park is well known as a place of thriving greenery, with more than 500 cherry blossoms coming into bloom each spring. We finish off our tour of Nagasaki today with an ascent from Hypocenter Park up to Peace Park, established in 1955. There are many statues and memorials all throughout Peace Park, each dedicated to a different aspect of this tragic event. But the most breathtaking of these, located across the vast expanse of the courtyard, is the Peace statue. At its base is a plaque titled Words from the Sculptor that I would like to read to you. After experiencing that nightmarish war, that blood-curdling carnage, that unendurable horror, who could walk away without praying for peace? This statue was created as a signpost in the struggle for global harmony. Standing 10 meters tall, it conveys the profundity of knowledge and the beauty of health and virility. The right hand points to the atomic bomb, the left hand points to peace, and the face prays deeply for the victims of war, transcending the barriers of race and evoking the qualities of Buddha and God. It is a symbol of the greatest determination ever known in the history of Nagasaki and the highest hope of all mankind. Each year on August 9th, the anniversary of the atomic bombing, a peace memorial ceremony is held in front of the statue where the mayor of Nagasaki delivers a peace declaration to the world. Opposite the statue, on the southern end of the park, you will find the Fountain of Peace, constructed in August of 1969. As with the fountain in Hiroshima, this was constructed to bring peace to the many souls of the atomic bomb victims who died searching for water. And so, here in Peace Park, our journey through the city of Nagasaki comes to an end. From the destructive conflict of the war rises a desire for peace. From the ashes of the fire that once consumed this landscape emerges new life. And from the rubble of a ruined city, reconstruction efforts repair its foundations, restoring a vibrancy that once might have been thought would be forever lost.
All right, that's gonna do it for our time spent here in the city of Nagasaki. We woke up this morning and geocached our way through the downtown area before heading over to the Atomic Bomb Museum to wrap things up. Now we're doing our shoot from here at the ground zero where the atomic bomb dropped over the city. I hope you guys have learned a little bit something along the way, and I also hope that you enjoyed our journey getting to explore Nagasaki this morning. Now I'm heading into Saga, but that's going to be in our next video. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and I'll see you out on the trails.